Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
My name's Mick Coyle. Jake Mills is here from Chasing the Stigma as we discuss a lot of talking points from the day's news agenda when it comes to mental health matters. And, of course, yesterday's edition of Mental Health Monday, which was Damian Harper's incredible story. Afternoon, Jake. Great to see you.
How are you?
What about that from Damian, by the way? Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro is one of them you think, well, that'd be difficult. And then you hear the story of bone cancer, losing your leg up to and including part of your hip. And you think, wow, that is a physical challenge and a half, before we get onto the mental side of things.
Yeah, I listened to it as I went on a 3K run and I was struggling. And then I was listening to that and I thought, oh no. But in many ways, I feel like they were both achievements and that's what we should be focusing on. But what a story that was. It was heartbreaking and inspiring and, I mean, beyond anything that I think anyone can imagine, actually, unless you go through it, it's impossible to comprehend, but put across so well as well.
I mean, you were doing a 3K run. I was sitting on this chair in an air-conditioned studio, but then if it hadn't been here, then the whole interview wouldn't have worked. So, forgive me.
The achievements on all levels.
Well, in many ways. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, links on our social media to where you can support him for doing that as well. The Amputation Foundation, the great work that they do. What about that when you look at someone's physical injury and you think, there's a physical injury and a half. How on earth would you ever comprehend that? The physical comeback for it. And then when the story takes the turn and the twist that actually we're talking decades and decades later, he suddenly realizes that he hasn't dealt with the events that led to him losing his leg, and then that turns itself into the deep depression and the issues that came with that one as well. Years and years after that, everyone going, "Oh, remember the thing that happened to you when you were a kid? Mm-hmm. This is something that everybody had moved on for." Not at all. It had been something which he'd put away in a little box, and something which came back with a real vengeance.
But it would, wouldn't it? I mean, this is why we're talking about how mental health and physical health need to be treated with the same urgency and that importance. And really, when something like that is happening, which is going to drastically change life as you know it, then you should be getting that mental health support as well to help with your resilience and adapting to that change in lifestyle and everything that you understand about life. And that's why it's important that we have that at that point of contact to help you prepare for that.
You could almost, I mean, if someone says to me now, explain why everyone's talking about mental health, that for me, that was the perfect example. And you go, right, well, here is somebody who specifically has suffered from a physical health issue. And as bad as it can be in regard to you lose your leg and suddenly all your plans. And you think, well, okay, the prosthetic comes in, he's going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. For a lot of people, they will go, well, that's the story then, isn't it? Difficult physical thing, and then technology helps out and he climbs a mountain. Isn't that great? And actually, it's, well, no. There's a completely another story that runs exactly concurrently alongside that, which intertwines all along the route, which is actually about something which you can't see. Something which is stored within the brain, and something which, in Damian's case, came back after years and years and years after that physical thing. And then the two suddenly combine, and it's how you then cope in that particular environment. Exactly.
But as you said, it's never spoken about and it's never addressed at that stage. So you wouldn't necessarily be aware of it yourself when you're going through it. And it's really important as well. We were touching on PTSD in yesterday's episode, and obviously the story we were talking about was almost an obvious case of PTSD in the sense that it was a dramatic incident that happened and it changed the lifestyle completely. But also it's really important for us to remember that PTSD can evolve from any traumatic life experience, and that doesn't have to mean that you've been in war, that you've lost a limb. It can mean that your life has changed in throughout because of some traumatic experience. That can be a relationship breakdown, that can be anything individual. So I think it's really important to remember that you don't have to go to war or lose a limb in order to struggle with PTSD.
And I think there was a study, wasn't there, about car crashes. If you're involved in a car crash as a kid, then actually that can trigger post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, in later life. Because although people will go, have you got a sore neck? If you have, there's a claim. For a lot of people, oh, you haven't, oh, that's a shame. Like,
Yeah.
you just move on. No one actually thinks, oh, well, actually, that might be something which, when you lie in bed at night, you might, re-get those feelings whenever you hear a particular type of car or engine. You might get flashbacks to that. But because you don't quantify that in a claim and a physical neck injury, then people aren't that interested.
Yeah, and I say it's about being aware of it. It's about being aware that it can affect you. Any traumatic experience can affect you, so it's just being aware of that.
Jake Mills is with us from Chasing the Stigma. I got the Times. The top story on the front page today is about mental health, and actually puts me in mind. I just had a long weekend. Excuse me, no better for it now.
That sounded like a hint or something. I don't know.
I went for a walk in the Lake District, but I have a thing sometimes where I almost have like itchy feet in that I feel like I've got to get out. And you feel like you've got to kind of like blow away the cobwebs. And I think that's very much a mental health thing. You always got to like reset yourself. And I was looking through my phone and I'd seen it had been 6 months since we'd had a proper blowout walk in the Lake District. We've been to North Wales since that, but it's a good place for me to go where I can kind of go, right, I'm in a beautiful environment, nice walks. Not the most difficult walks, you can find okay ones, but we had a great time and it kind of reset me a little bit. And then come into the work today. Children who grew up in greener surroundings have a greatly reduced risk of developing mental illnesses later in life. A study that tracked almost 1 million people found that those who were raised among the lowest levels of green space were as much as 55% more likely to develop disorders such as substance abuse, stress-related illnesses, and schizophrenia. A leafy childhood environment was as strongly linked to a person's mental health as their family history of mental illness, and the only slightly less than their parents' socio-economic status. The link to good mental health was just as strong for those who lived in green areas of cities as for those who grew up deep in the countryside. No, I have this. Yeah. Where, unless I'm in like a bit of green space and open space, I feel claustrophobic. It stresses me out, I think.
Yeah, we know that exercises can, and again, it's coming back around to this idea that everyone has mental health and we all have good and bad mental health at some point in our lives, and it's looking out for the things that can benefit your mental health, looking at things that might work for you. It might not work for everyone, but we do know that exercise, outdoor spaces, getting out, being in that space can have a dramatic effect on your mental health for the positive. And yeah, I'm the same as you, really. I like to run. Well, actually, I don't. I hate running, but I do it because I can have that alone space, and it's not so much about the exercise for me. It's about that time to get out there. And I think you've said that about going for the walk as well, where you can just be out and you're separated from something. I'm not on my phone, I'm not in the house, I'm just out. And it makes sense, it makes complete sense. But as I said, some people might like the concrete jungle as well.
I know, but I think that's the thing, isn't it, where you almost get a sense of what brings you a bit of peace.
Yeah, and that's it. And you know you more than anybody else, and you know what works for you. And this is why we need to be talking about mental health as a positive and an aspirational thing to look out for. What we shouldn't be talking about mental health as a negative and only wait until it's negative. We should be talking about what's good for us on a day-to-day basis for our mental health.
But actually, but it's one of those things as well, as the population of the world grows and cities become the king. If it's not factored into all developments that there needs to be green space and environment, these are foreseeable problems which will emerge in the future. I've got an idea. I'm going to run this by you right now.
There we go. This is live.
So, like, with this in mind, and you've got all these developments, you've got one going on downtown, Bixter Garden, all that kind of stuff, all these different places, green spaces. You could almost have, couldn't you, in these spaces, like a mindful garden. Like with all these new developments, you go, great, build this, build it high, build it low, build it out, build it whatever, long, whatever, however you go, build it down.
Are you an architect? Or?
But if every one of those developments had with it, you had to set aside like a mindful area, which will be a bit of green space where, if you want to throw down yoga mats, great. If you want to go and stroke your dog, then it's great. If you want to go and read a book, if you want to go and have your lunch, that actually you could create these little zones, little protected little oases that otherwise might not exist within a city centre. No one's going to go and sit down Williamson Square, are they? And go and read a book.
I'm just thinking of an area to go and stroke your dog. That's the thing. That's just the
thing. You want to just sit down and do something a bit relaxed and just think, I'm just going to take 5 minutes. To go on your lunch or anything like that. That if every single new development that we had in this city and other cities always had a little spot, and you think, if you're feeling a bit down or you just want to get a bit of time to yourself, you could go and find one of these little mindful spots and go, right, I can just relax.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's an obvious one, but one that's probably overlooked. I think you're spot on.
you know anyone at the planning department?
Let's pitch it. Let's get it all together and then let's pitch it.
Are you being serious now? Or are you being
Yeah.
sarcastic?
No, let's do it.
Right, good. Jake, this one's for you, by the way, because you and I and you soon to be once again sleep. We've talked about this before, and lack of sleep being a triggering thing.
Mm-hmm.
Starting a family is known to make a good night's sleep a distant dream, writes Nicola Davis in The Guardian, but research suggests parental tiredness may go on for 6 years. Researchers tracking the sleep of thousands of men and women as their family size increased found that shut-eye reached a low point about 3 months after birth, with the effect strongest in women. While parents' sleep gradually improved as their firstborn grew, it appeared their slumber was never quite the same again. Oh, tell me about it. This is Dr. Sakari Lamola, a co-author of the research. We didn't expect to find that, but we believe that there are certainly many changes in the responsibilities that you have. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the team found women reported a decline in sleep satisfaction in the first years after childbirth, dropping 1.7 points on the scale on average for the first child and just over 0.1 for both the second and third child compared with before their first pregnancy.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's an issue. I think we discussed this as well. I don't know if we did so on air, but I think as as parents, and you've got two now, and my wife's pregnant again now, and I think you said the second time round it was just a case of being honest with each other.
Oh yeah,
and just saying, listen, we are. It's all. I think you said that you agreed to say it's the sleep. It's the sleep.
We're just tired. That was the line. It was just. Although there's a thing here, and I'm not discrediting the survey or the study or Dr. Sakari's work. Mothers lost about 40 minutes of sleep a night in the year after a baby arrived. 40 minutes. Now, it's just more than that, right? It's just more than that, right? Compared with pre-pregnancy levels. So before they were pregnant, right? They were getting whatever amount of sleep. Then they were losing 40. You could drop 40 minutes and no one would notice anything. You wouldn't even barely notice it. But then there's a great line here. There were similar trends among fathers. The effects were less pronounced. 3 months after their first child's sleep, fathers lost only 13 minutes of sleep. 13?
Come on.
That's not true, is it?
Unless they're talking about like before you're pregnant and you going out and getting in at 4 a.m. and then that's what you were counting.
Yeah, and you were working on the checkouts the next day.
13 minutes. Come on now.
How's it been since you arrived? Terrible sleep. I'm 13 minutes a night down. You get 13 minutes. You probably get 13 minutes in disrupted sleep anyway when you don't have kids because there's like an alarm's gone off. But anyone could go. You get 7.5 hours. You lose 30. Oh, I only get 7 hours, 17 minutes worth of sleep now.
Yeah. 13. Know what? I'll take it. I'll take 13 minutes if that's what it's going to be. I'll take that. Happily take that.
But also, I think it's the moment in the night where that 13 minutes arrives. Like, so if it's 40 minutes or 30 minutes or somewhere in between or somewhere significantly more, which it probably is. Like, if you go to bed, it's like 10:30 and you fall asleep at 11, and at about 12:15, you have to deal with a nappy or a feed or something like that. Yeah. I think you can kind of cope with that because if you then put them down by 1 o'clock, you're back in bed. If you're then getting up at 7:15 the next day, you've had that stretch of 6 and a bit hours. You think, well, that's what I needed. It's when it drops at like 3:23. It's always like 3:28 or something like that in the morning. And then it's just like, right, slap bang in the middle of the night. And in summer, you can, by the time you're going back to bed, the signs of sunrise are on the way. And that's the thing where you think, well, I've had 2 chunks of sleep there, which haven't created one whole chunk of sleep.
Yeah, I think you're spending 30 minutes per hour working out how much sleep you're going to get if you fell asleep right now. I think that's maybe you need to reread it. Maybe that's what she's suggesting.
That's
13.
But and again, I'll say this, having gone through this very recently, and to be honest, still going through it now with a 9-month-old. There is nothing worse. I think this is definitely a mental health point, by the way, because physically you'll get through. But there is nothing worse than going to bed knowing you're not going to get a good night's sleep. There is something heartbreaking about that, where you're thinking, fine, I'm going to bed. The thing that you're supposed to reset your body, re-go again. I'm going to bed, and this is going to suck.
I'm going along with it. I'll pretend that I'm going to do this. It's that moment when you get in bed and then you get comfortable and you put your head and you go, I'm so ready for this. And then you just hear the cry.
Which you knew was coming.
Yeah. You're like, oh no.
There you go.
So, there we
Sleep
go.
patterns on the Warwick University team. Mental Health Extra with Jake Mills every Tuesday, following on from Mental Health Monday. The podcast will automatically download if you subscribe to the feed. Chasing the Stigma, you got a big week this week, Jake?
We have. We're in London a couple of times, meeting with government ministers this week, and events in Parliament, just trying to promote not only what we're doing but the good practice that's happening around the country. There's a lot of good practice that is happening, and you've had a lot of people on this show who are doing that, so we're just trying to talk about all the things that we are doing and that you are doing, and trying to get that message out there about alternative methods of help.
And if you are a developer and want to hear more about our Mindful Spot, we'll call it the Mindful Spot. Speak to me and Jake via Chasing the Stigma, me at Radio City Talk. If you want to find the Hub of Hope, that's mental health organisations close to where you are, hit the Hub of Hope app or the website, and it'll use the location on your device to find mental health services close to you.
Rock, sport and talk.
Liverpool Live with Mick Coyle.
This is Radio City Talk.